Koh Young is leading a smart revolution that will change the world of electronics manufacturing. Based on our pioneering True 3D measurement-based inspection technology, we revolutionized the solder paste inspection market to such great lengths that 1 in 2 SPIs sold today is from Koh Young. Building our SPI technology, we expanded to automated optical inspection, also known as AOI. Every year, we introduce new award-winning innovations and have proudly earned the respect from thousands of customers across diverse industries. Aside from our R&D center in Korea, we have research facilities focused on artificial intelligence and deep learning across the world to help us further develop proprietary AI technologies for your challenges. With our global network of sales and service centers, we aim to respond quickly to your needs and to deliver the highest level of customer satisfaction.
Welcome to the Koh Young booth here at IPC Apex Expo. Delighted to be joined by the General Manager, of course, Joel Scutchfield. Nice to see you, Joel.
Nice to see you, Trevor. Great to be back here in person again.
Isn't it?
Yeah, we've been looking at each other through video screens, right, for the last year and a half, right? So,
absolutely. But it's nice. It's not just nice to see each other, but it's nice to actually see equipment again. You know, actually on the floor.
Our industry partners, customers. It just feels like the old days that weren't that long ago, but boy, they seem like they were, right? But yeah, it's been great. We've had a great morning, and you know, if things continue as they have thus far today, I think we're going to have a very successful show. So very excited about it.
Good. I'm excited for you. But you know, looking back at the last year, you haven't been sitting still at Koh Young.
Absolutely not.
There's a couple of things I want to talk about. I mean, the first one we've talked about a little bit before, which is the Neptune conformal coating inspection system. Sure. Tell us some of the key features and differentiators that have made this such a special machine.
Sure. Yeah, and I think if we go back to the session we did last January, which was our virtual Apex, and I had given you a tour of our demo room. We talked about it from the perspective of the technology that was being used. But at the end of the day, we identified through our market research and voice of the customer, as Dr. Koh likes to encourage us to gather, the fact that the industry was lacking a solution when it came to being able to inspect conformal coating, in particular, where three-dimensional thickness measurement is being done at production speeds.
Right.
So there were tools out there at that time, still are, that can do that analysis, but it's very slow, and that of course precludes any type of inline manufacturing. So I think that probably at the end of the day, from a conformal coating perspective anyway, is probably going to be the biggest differentiator. And we have customers that need to gather measurement data on the component and even on the lead, but not only on the lead, but on certain parts of the lead. You know, the knee, the wing on the gull wing, if you will, the toe. So being able to do that reliably, as well as on the board surface itself, in multiple locations across the board, is big, and certainly in our customers' eyes.
Well, I think the thickness testing is, as you know, is critical in certain areas, but it also depends on the viscosity of the material and the way that it flows out. So that's why, you know, people need to measure the wing of the gull, as you say, and the toe and that kind of thing. But you have the ability, as I understand it, with the Meister to be able to measure multiple areas around the board.
Correct. Yes, and that is the beauty of the Neptune C Plus in particular. Is again, you're not limited to, because of speed concerns, just taking a singular point and making an assumption then that the entire board is that particular thickness, which, as we know, as you just alluded to, is probably not the case.
Right.
And being able to give those very specific measurements at those various locations on the board is very important, because the competitive systems that are doing that now, even if a customer is willing to expend the time, right, is basically taking an average, right? So we know that that's really not accurate either. So being able to get specific measurement values at multiple points, at production rates, now allows us to, again, to give the customer data that they need and process in an inline format, which is certainly what they want to do. That's how their factories are set up. So
you can measure these, as I understand it, also either in the wet status or in the dry status. Is there a benefit to doing it wet? Because it hasn't really.
Yeah, it's not. It sounds good, right? Much like inspecting solder paste when it's wet. You can clean it if you need to, if it's that egregious. I don't know that customers are going to want to do that with conformal coatings. First of all, there's so many different types of coatings. The solvents and the materials that would be utilized to clean them could be different in some cases, and just the mess, the waste, hazardous waste. You're going to make it a little bit more difficult than maybe it sounds. It's certainly a situation where, from a compare and contrast perspective, like we do with many processes, is to be able to inspect initially maybe in both states and compare and see what the trends show. But typically, what we found is that there is movement within the coating material through the curing process, much like solder through the reflow oven. So, the cured state is the state that board is going to live in for the rest of its existence. So it's really, it really is. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to tell you the most about the state of that board after coming out of the curing stage.
Yeah. So there's a couple of other things I want to touch on very quickly on the booth here. You've already been doing systems SPI systems that inspect the solder paste and pass information back to the printer. But now you've got a sort of closed loop system where you can even do repairs on the fly. So talk us through that system.
Certainly, yes, we've actually had the repair tool in the system for probably 5 years now. We made a change to the apparatus to go to a more of a air over fluid concept, which is much more user friendly, maintenance friendly, less maintenance needy, I guess is really the key change there in terms of the eyes or receptivity of the market. But basically, as you said, what we're able to do is, if we identify that the paste is insufficient on a particular pad or set of pads, we can incrementally add paste, re-inspect, and therefore there's no need to, again, clean. And in some cases, we have customers that can't clean. That's considered repair, right? And their customers or their edicts from manufacturing say no repair, right? If it's bad, you scrap it. So, being able to address insufficiency in that manner is very, very helpful. And we're still feeding that same defect information. We're collecting it, right? We're feeding it back through the use of our KPO tools to, if we go to that extent, to the data set that would then make adjustments for basically print speed, pressure, and release. So it's through that data gathering that the KPO tools, as we've discussed in the past, really operate. That's the methodology, right? Set up the printer correctly from the get-go, right? Doing the automated DOE, giving us those recommendations for speed, pressure, and release, and then using the diagnostics tool to do monitoring at a much higher level than the standard XY positional, where we're looking for trends, where we're using the machine learning to predict, if you will, and then we move to the optimizer piece, which now uses deep learning to analyze that information and actually make adjustments as needed for speed, pressure, and release. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. We're self-healing in two ways, right? We're doing it through the closed looping, but we're also doing it with the repair tool. So it's a very attractive situation for customers, especially those in the scenario of not being able to rework for whatever
taking you
reason.
into the real realms of predictive testing and being able
Exactly.
to repair things before
Self-healing, as I like to use.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We identify, we correct, but we also fix automatically before sending it down the line.
Right. So you've taken it one step further now, and you've introduced a system that's doing a closed-loop inspection at the pick and place. Now, is this something that's tied to a post-placement AOI, or is this a separate unit? How does it work?
It's absolutely post-placement AOI, or what we refer to as pre-reflow, and also referred to as multi-point inspection or three-point inspection, SPI, pre and post. So the concept there is certainly from a smart factory perspective, it's more data. It's another sensor in the line. It's more information for corrective action, for data analysis. Specifically in that location, we're looking for presence, absence, polarity, part marking, all of the things that are not solder joint centric, right? And we're able to identify through the use of the pre-reflow system, AOI system, anomalies that could be attributed to a specific feeder or a spindle or a nozzle. In the initial phase, we're generating a manual report that allows the user, the engineer, the technician, to see what those anomalies consisted of through that 100, 200, 1,000 piece run, and manually make the changes to that feeder, spindle, nozzle. The next phase to that is basically automatically skipping out that feeder, spindle, nozzle, and even providing information for XY positional. So if we notice something is off, we can actually tell the system, okay, you need to adjust by X. So again, kind of back to the whole smart factory initiative. You don't want to do that from a post-reflow environment, right? We know that there's movement in the oven, as we talked about, within the solder joint creation, and it's at this point not reliable to rely certainly on XY information post-reflow. So we do that from a pre-reflow environment, and from there, again, we're now taking one step. We're getting one step closer to that true smart factory realization.
But to make that work effectively, though, you're probably going to have the cooperation, at least, of some of the major pick-and-place companies. So how successful have you been in negotiating these?
No, it's a great point. And much like the KPO printer, which is set up behind us, initiative, where we partnered with 2 or 3 of the top usual suspects,
yeah.
We're basically doing the same on the mounter side. But we have come to grips with the fact that the best way to handle this long term is a generic protocol, right? Where we can play with anybody, right? And that, I think, even gives us a stronger competitive advantage, because now we're not saying, oh, we only work with X, Y, and Z. We can work with everybody. So, and I think that's the push going forward for everything we're going to do, and everything else everybody else should be doing, right? With the goal of being able to, again, provide information up and down the line to systems that are not ours, to self-heal, to correct, to provide actionable events that correct and heal on the fly. So I think we're certainly at the forefront of that. We like to push the envelope. We'll continue to do so. Certainly, we'll be taking the same approach with the Neptune from a coating perspective, and multiple other inspection tools that we would potentially introduce into the process. That's the key. I mean, that now is the backbone for everything we do. We need to make it. We need to have a framework that allows us to apply the self-healing concept and the data sharing and all of that goes into that very quickly to be able to truly achieve smart factory. I think, Trevor, and I've maybe said this in a previous conversation, we're going to see varying levels of smart factory realization, because connectivity alone does not mean smart factory, right? And it all comes back to, in our world, the data set, right? It's just like with AI and what the autonomous car people are doing, right? Enormous amounts of data, which is now available because of storage and cloud capabilities and processing speeds. AI's been around for a long time, right? But it went into a black hole for a while because we didn't have these capabilities from a data handling and a speed perspective. So I see that as something that's going to be very real in our world, and only those that have that very superior, robust, complete data set, big data set, are going to be able to achieve true maximized smart factory. And then you'll have guys that are going to be able to achieve a little bit less than that. And you know what? That might be fine for some customers, but
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, and I think that's definitely the way it's going to go, Joel. But I mean, one point I made earlier this morning is that I think the bigger guys, in some ways, are going to benefit more because they're able to reference multiple machines and multiple lines in multiple factories, and by amassing all of that data together, they're going to learn a lot more than if you're just referencing 3 machines in a factory with one line.
Yeah, and again, we understand that, right? And I think where we need to get to, and our competitive advantage is that, again, it's that data set, because we certainly want to be able to play in the sandbox nicely with everyone, right? We have to. Customers control that. We don't, right? They're going to hold us accountable, all of us in this space, whether it be printer manufacturers, pick and place manufacturers, inspection. We're all going to have to be able to play with each other, right? So then what is our competitive advantage? Well, it still comes back to the data set, right? Yes, I can play with everybody in this line, okay, but and maybe my competitors can as well, but if their data set is not what our data set can deliver, the customer is not going to be able to achieve the same level of results with one versus the other. And I think that, again, is where the competitive state is starting to change. Keith and I talked about this a little bit in Minneapolis. Basically again, kind of getting back to the just fact that there's going to be multiple levels, right? There's going to be multiple levels, and the data set is really going to control everything. So in terms of the level of success that can be achieved.
Now, it's an interesting space, Joel, and it's going to continue to evolve for sure for the next few years. So, it's
going on. There's never a dull moment around here, right?
Absolutely.
even in a COVID era, right? There's still much to do. We expanded our market share. We had a phenomenal record 2021 for KYA and for Koh Young Global, and 2022 is off to a great start. So we're
great. Well, we'll continue to monitor your progress and look forward to catching up with you probably at the next show. But for now, I want to thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome, Trevor. Look forward to that. Always enjoy speaking with you, and great to be here, sitting here in person once again.
Yeah.
So come see us anytime.